Lions at Vikings.
Okay, Vikings, offensive coach, off a bye, rested. I like Minnesota lay the 1.5. They're 3-0 at home, only team to cover every game. But their defense has been equally impressive. They've held opponents under 20 points in 4 of 5 games. They're the only team to not allow a touchdown outside of the red zone. This is Brian Flores. You get nothing cheap. It's very New England Patriots in their prime, nothing cheap. Yes, the Lions are on a 3-game winning streak, but they face 3 of the worst defenses or most banged-up defenses in Seattle, the Cowboys, and the Cardinals. Take a deep breath. Aiden Hutchinson not playing. Carlton Davis, their corner, hasn't practiced this week, so the pass rush significantly less. A top corner is out. Minnesota up a bye this season. They are first in a lot of categories. I don't consider it an upset. Vikings win, seize control of the division 28-24.
Yeah, so this is, this is definitely going to be a very interesting game. All right, so he's got it at 28-24. I'm not getting too lost in the actual score itself, quite frankly. But I've talked about this game in a previous video. It's pretty crazy when you look at it, where if the Vikings win this game, they have a true, clear path for a 10, 11 plus game straight. No losses, right? Total, dating back, since the beginning of the season. And it's pretty wild. I mean, you do that, you do wrap up this division, right? I mean, you essentially will wrap up the 1 seed as well, and then be able to kind of just rest up your players and kind of just use the next couple of games going into the playoffs essentially as just kind of like, hey, let's just stay fresh, glorified practices. So there is a lot at stake. Starting off just like this, because then I think it would be 2-0 within the division, in a division that's going to be so tight, right? Because this is the scary place for the Vikings, for any team, honestly, in the NFC North, is that you drop a game or two, it's like no longer are you winning the division, and now you're fighting for a wild card spot, right? I mean, like that's the crazy thing about this division right now. It is an absolute gauntlet. It's so tight. You can go from the 1 seed or immediately drop as low as it can go. And it's crazy. I mean, it really, really is. But it's just the way how this season is shaping up. So that's why getting this win, the Lions went all in to beat the Cowboys, right? I mean, like, they clearly were so emotional, so intense. They wanted that game so badly, and it showed. They unfortunately had a devastating injury, and the Vikings are coming off of a bye, right? Where they've played not a super clean game in London, but still won, of course. So they had plenty to work with, plenty to fine tune, and they also had a positive experience in London. It's always nice to travel abroad, get a win, have some fun, right? I'm sure it was a good team building, weekend for them as well. And now they were able to come back, which was cool because then they were able to come back and then have that bye. So it kind of helps solidify that feeling of like, again, team and family building, which I talk a lot about, that I really think is really, really important. And so it's going to be really interesting for me to see how they come out on Sunday for them, right? That's what I'm really curious to see, because the Vikings, I think, have the potential, if they win this game convincingly, right? If it's clear that the Vikings are in control, I'm not saying they have to blow them out. It just has to be clear that they're the better team. They will officially put, I think, the entire NFL on notice, honestly. Some Minnesota Viking fans are going to be like, why hasn't that happened already? And again, I've talked about that in virtually every single Vikings video of how great I think the Vikings are, how they're great both offensively, defensively. They have a great offensive head coach in Kevin O'Connell, and then they have an awesome defensive coordinator. And so that 1-2 punch together, all these weapons, and they're still getting healthy, is just awesome to see, right? Just dominant. But a lot of people still see this as either Sam Darnold's going to turn into a pumpkin, or it's going to be one of those things where the Vikings can just kind of fall apart, right? Like there's just not a lot of confidence in the Vikings. Very similar how there wasn't a tremendous amount of confidence in the Lions last year, because it was kind of like, okay, this is pretty cool, but like you're probably going to lose to the Rams. You're going to lose to the 49ers, right? Like there wasn't, like, they surprised people when they beat the Chiefs in week 1, but it wasn't like, oh my God, here they come. It was like, it woke people up to the Lions, but people didn't really firmly believe in them as much as they do now. Right now, the Lions get a benefit of the doubt. The Vikings do not have the benefit of the doubt. So now the Lions just dominate the Cowboys, obviously, in spectacular fashion. Really leave a ton of people speechless. Jerry Jones loses his mind on a radio show, right? Like literally broke Jerry Jones. Now if the Vikings come up and just go, that's cool what you did. You did it against the Cowboys. Congratulations. Cowboys are awful. Good job. And the Vikings step up and lay their own punch. That'll make people be right. Like, I think it'll be all the following week, all on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It'll be, are the Vikings for real? Should the Vikings be favored to win the Super Bowl? Who would win the Super Bowl, Vikings or Chiefs? Like, you're going to get all of those kind of like forced narrative conversations. That's what I believe. And then you'll see maybe shows on like First Things First, and it'll be like, the Vikings should be at the top, not the Chiefs, and everybody will be, railing on Nick Ray and Sam Darnold. When are you going to move Sam Darnold up on Mahomes' mound? Like it'll spread everywhere. And then maybe even Colin puts them at the 1 spot instead, especially if maybe the Chiefs lose versus the 49ers. Like, this is a very interesting weekend. And again, it's not to say that any of those things fundamentally matter at the end of the day, right? Because it's just conversation. It just is. But it is a sign of the collective confidence of who the Vikings are. I think if you ask the average person, maybe even fan to a degree, maybe non-Vikings fan, if the Saints get to the playoffs, would you be shocked if they lose round 1 or 2, right? Would you be shocked if they don't go to the Super Bowl? I think a lot of people would be like, no. I think they're having a great season, pretty fun to watch. They're good, but like, no, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like that's just the level of confidence that at least that I'm feeling from, again, the general public, whether it be media, fans, whatever it may be. It's not my opinion. I can't be clear enough on that. It's not my opinion, so don't come at me and say, you don't believe in the Vikings, and that's not what I'm saying at all. So this game, from my viewpoint, has the ability, because even if you don't care about perception, it's totally fine. I get it. Some people are like, who cares what these other people have to say? I get that. But a big win here also starts to put the fear against other teams, right? Now, I'm a firm believer that the big players, right, the main guys, the Mahomeses, the Allens of the world, they don't fear other teams, right? They have an insane belief in them. Joe Burrow does not fear Patrick Mahomes. He just doesn't. Whether he should or he shouldn't doesn't even matter. He just doesn't, right? Like, that's what it is. The big time coaches don't either. But everyone else under that, whether it's some of the players that you probably don't even know their names, some of the other coaching staff members that you probably don't even know their names, they will fear, right? They have not reached the highest of the highest levels. They will experience fear. And so what the Vikings have the ability to do is, with the big win here, is to instill fear around the NFL, which goes a long way. Goes a long way when you are this up-and-coming team right now, right? It makes you a bigger beast to face, right? If they lose this game against the Lions, now when other teams go up against the Vikings, they go, oh yeah, they're beatable. Look what the Lions did to them. Lions beat them 17-10. Sam Darnold couldn't move the ball down the field at all, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be a big, pretty win. It could just be like, yeah, we could beat them. But if the Vikings keep winning and they beat the team that just dominated the Cowboys, whether we think the Cowboys are good or bad, doesn't matter. They still dominated them in spectacular fashion. It sends a message. People start to get a little scared. When you see that you're playing the Vikings, you definitely put your back up straight. And in the meetings now, right, for these other teams, it's the Vikings are for real. We got to be on our A game. They will expose us. They will expose our weaknesses. If we don't, we make a mistake, they will make us pay, right? It's just a level of intensity that they weren't getting before, which can help or hurt the Vikings to some degree, right? Because then you're going to start to get a better punch whoever you face. but also you are going to have that fear. There's going to be that feeling of, oh man, this team is for real. This team is good. And I think that really, really can go a long way. So this is a big game, obviously just for divisional purposes, but also for the greater good of the Vikings. Look at the schedule. They win this game. They have the ability to rip off another 4 or 5 wins in a row, set them at 10, 11, and 0 and beyond. And then again, you at that point, it feels like you would pretty much have solidified the number 1 seed potentially, maybe depending on what's happening with a couple of these other teams in different divisions, but you would be sitting in the driver's seat, right? That wouldn't be disputed. So pretty exciting stuff for the Minnesota Vikings. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about where the Vikings stand right now? What do they have to gain or lose with a win versus the Lions? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.